they're partners of is that, well, Scott is great and he speaks for the truth and we all love Scott, but Scott's not going to be able to work with these city council people. He's going to end up being, I don't know if everybody has like a history long enough to say he's going to be a John Burgos, who, God bless him, dude. He took the right stand on every issue, but he was usually a lone vote. Now, what John didn't do that I would do is that I would be diligently watching and studying issues as they emerged before the council, not just like the day of committee. Not just waking up this morning. I mean, it's funny. You go to these, if we were to go down to these committee meetings today, these people will be walking in there not knowing jack squat about what's on their agenda that day. Well, I'd be knowing about what's on that agenda a month in advance. And I'd be working with local media and organizations that had stakes and understandings in those issues to get the word out to the public before that committee meeting, so that people had an opportunity to have meaningful input in the political process, to where they'd actually be able to lobby their city council person a little bit in advance. Too often we see these, this just came up on the agenda today, and a bunch of people run down there and protest and say they're 2 minutes worth, but that's too late. We have to generate a sense of what the public supports and what the public opposes a little bit in advance of those meetings, so that we have an opportunity to inform our elected representatives as to what we really want them to represent. And I think that I used to be a totally radical guy, and people think of me, a lot of people still think of me as a radical guy. Very first thing I ever did in Memphis was hang a big banner off the side of the Velsicol smokestack that said, "Stop exporting persistent organic pollutants." And so I'm a radical, but I've also learned how to get along with people. And Strickland and I are friends. Shay Flynn and I are friends. Janice Fullylove and I get along great. Joe Brown doesn't like me a whole lot because, frankly, I upstage him in our own neighborhood. People in our own neighborhood will come to me for something before they'll go to Joe Brown, because Joe Brown's never given them anything or done anything for them. And Barbara Ware and I's relationship was kind of similar, she was late to the game more often than not. And one of the things I think that's unique about me is that I think that I would have a enhanced ability to negotiate and communicate with our white bread city council people. I'm using that. Everybody knows the word white bread.
Right.
And more particularly, I'm an old deadhead. We all called the widespread panic people when they came along. We called it a white bread picnic. People like Jim Strickland and Shay Flynn and Tim Conrad, and I don't know about Reed so much. They all came up in a socially liberal time, and have been exposed to a lot of more altruistic ideals, but they come from an economic background that has drawn them back into the snail shell, and I think I could draw them out more. I think that I could actually get them to act as more progressive people and be able to balance that with my interests in addressing issues of poverty and racism and unfair housing and
I don't want to cut you off,
Sure.
but we got to keep moving here. So on the same lines, then how would you integrate the will of your constituencies as a city council member? So in other words, how would you communicate with your folks? How would you hear their concerns? What's your communication effort going to be like?
Well, I mean, already just in my regular life, I attend a half dozen community group meetings monthly, some of those bi-monthly, and I've expanded that since I'm running for office, and I would just continue to do that. Go to their forum to hear what they've got to say, sit quietly in the corner.
Neighborhood type meetings?
Neighborhood type meetings, Fraser Community Development Corporation, Fraser Exchange Club, Midtown North Neighborhood Association, VECA, Hyde Park. And some of these folks in those neighborhoods have even actually become somewhat disorganized as a result of not being politically empowered in North Memphis, and they're sitting around kind of waiting for an opportunity to get fired back up again. You know, so I would take myself to them, and I'd just always be open. I mean, anybody can call me anytime, and Lord knows they do. I mean, I get the wackiest calls, like, Scott, they're about to tear down 17 acres of woods in South Memphis, or 7 acres of woods, and shove 17 houses on it, and we don't understand why. What can you do about it? Well, South Memphis isn't really my grounds, but we killed it. 2 weeks ago, we killed that project, and instead encouraged Robert Lipscomb and people at Housing Urban Development to go and look, or Memphis Housing Authority, to go look at a property that was already, you know, barren.
How'd you do that? I mean, did you facilitate
Making
that?
phone calls, man, talking to people. Same way I did with, like, you know, they were going to scare off all these optional school parents, you know. I didn't get it out as wide as I should have because I didn't know how good the results were, but, you know, being tipped off by Republicans, I saw that they were going to do it. Sure enough, Pickler makes an announcement, we're going to kill the optional program. That was going to be a big stickler for people to vote for consolidation, you know, and a vote that we needed to have in Midtown. And so I called a meeting that Martavius and Kamika and Jeff and Shay and you know, Kenya came representing y'all, and just a few. There's like a half dozen parents with key parents, you know, and you know, you just do that behind the scenes, you know. I like a kid with my kids all the time, you know, like you only see daddy in the newspaper or TV every once in a while, but the rest of the time, I talk to all these reporters in town every week, every single one of them, and even if they're not going to quote me or specifically write on what it is I'm telling them to, I'm informing their thinking of it, just by suggesting things, ideas, throwing out little bits of information here and there, and you know, it's my preferred way of doing things because I'd rather be not fully under, you know, public scrutiny all the time.
So being on city council, how?
Well, Janice Fully Love like reestablished.
I know.
Like,
well, that's yeah, but you're at the so yeah. So address that. City council, public scrutiny, ethics. All of that.
I do own some ties. They're Jerry Garcia ties, and Amy just bought me some nice button-down shirts so I can, you know, go dress the part when I need to. I do have the ability to, you know, not cuss and carry on when I need to.
But do you think that, have you thought about what city council, holding that office, how that would change your way of the way you do things?
Well, it wouldn't. I would continue to be the community activist guy that I am right now. I would just have more than 2 minutes to express myself.
Now, how would you balance city council, work, family, all of that?
I don't work much right now anyways. I spend most of my time running around working on, you know, issues here and there. You know, and that's part of how Amy and I have structured our life. She's a midwife. She makes, for what, you know, for us is a good, solid income. We live in the hood and don't owe a whole lot on our house. I've got a rundown old shop on Chelsea. When I do make money, I make enough money in one chunk that we get to invest in something good that then further diminishes our cost of living. So we just live a very simple lifestyle. And I mean, I'd be a full-time counselor. And I wouldn't just be like going to luncheons and shaking hands here and there. I'd be out in the schools talking to kids, playing ball with them, you know, working it, running my chainsaw in neighborhoods, cleaning them up, you know. That's what I do anyway. Do it more.
Okay.
And I'd get like health benefits too. I'd be like doing all the same stuff I do anyways, but
Okay, Scott, I'm gonna circle